So if I had to start over completely from scratch today, I'm talking about no properties, no network at all, no money at all, right? Here is exactly how I would rebuild my multi-million dollar real estate portfolio from zero. The cool part is I could do it even faster this time around than the first time. And just to put that into context, I've been financially free through real estate in less than 3 years. Currently, I own over $25 million of real estate that more than cover all of my living expenses, and I'm only growing. Like literally every single month, I'm buying more properties that are paying me more and more with every single deal that I do. The cool part, I'm going to show you how you can do it even faster than I did it because you have all the knowledge that I've created essentially over the last couple of years. The crazy part is that most people you talk to, they're going to tell you that you need to save for 20 years, you need to have absolutely perfect credit, or you need to come from money to do any of this. Well, full transparency, that was not me. I do not come with a silver spoon. I did not win the lottery. I have learned and implemented a ton of awesome strategies that I'm going to literally share for you, regardless of where you're at in your investing journey. So another piece of lame advice I hear is, hey, I want to start investing in real estate. What people will tell that person is, hey, you should go become a real estate agent. That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm not saying if you're a real estate agent, that's dumb, but I'm saying if you want to become a real estate investor, you do not need to go become a real estate agent. First of all, over 70% of real estate agents did not do a single transaction in 2024. Literally, they didn't make any money at all, and they spent the time, money, and energy to become an agent. Just because you're an agent, that does not make you a better investor. They're totally different things. You can be a phenomenal investor and agent, but there's no reason that you have to be an agent if you're starting from scratch. Once again, that is something I have definitely not done. So in today's session, I'm going to show you the exact path I'd take, whether you're an absolute beginner, you're already an intermediate investor, or you're an advanced wealth builder. I want to show you exactly what I would do. A lot of it I actually did do, but now I have even more knowledge and would do it a lot faster so that it can benefit you no matter where you are starting from. So if you're absolutely brand new or you're already doing deals, but you want to scale, grab your notebook, please. I'm going to be breaking this stuff down step by step. This is like a true roadmap of what I've done and how you could do it faster and better, and even how I would have done it even faster and better with all the knowledge that I have. Grab your notebook. This is going to be an action-packed session. You're going to have to watch it a couple times and it'll be well worth it. So let's start with the very beginning. Real estate investing, like we want to understand the big picture overall. Like what is financial freedom through real estate? That's number one. That's the first thing that you want to be doing. So let's start with why real estate even matters. The cool thing about real estate, or the cool thing about financial freedom in general, is it's actually very simple math. For real estate, it's when your total rental income exceeds your monthly expenses, you are then financially free, right? So if you're spending $5,000 a month on your real estate portfolio, but you're getting $10,000 of rental income, you're making $5,000 a month that you get to keep. That is your money. And if your living expenses are $5,000 a month and your real estate portfolio pays you $5,000 a month, congrats. You literally never have to work for someone else again because your entire lifestyle expenses, all of your expenses are covered through a real estate income. Hopefully that makes sense. It can't get much easier than whatever your profits are from real estate, they need to exceed your personal expenses so that you are financially free. And honestly, even if you're spending $5,000 a month and you're only getting $2,000 a month profit from real estate, wouldn't you be pretty thankful and pretty happy to know that that's $2,000 of your living expenses that are covered through real estate? That's pretty sick, especially because you get wealth benefits as well. I'm going to share something very quickly. If you know anything about me, you've seen this one plenty of times. What I just presented to you was cash flow. Basically, your income from real estate minus your expenses in real estate, what is left over is your cash flow. That is what you get to live off of, and that is what makes you financially free. The awesome part about real estate is you don't only get cash flow, your properties increase in value, so they grow in value over time. Your tenants are paying you, and you're using that to pay down your debts. So both of these are adding to your wealth, and you get tax savings, so you get to keep more of your money. I add this leverage piece, which if you're a beginner, this is not the thing for you to think about, but the more real estate that you do, the more knowledgeable that you get, the better your skill set at getting deals, at raising money, the faster and better you get to grow and scale in your overall investing journey. But for right now, financial freedom comes from your cash flow. What is your net profit? And we'll get into that in more detail shortly. So before anything, before we could even like worry about, okay, real estate will make me financially free when I have this much money coming in from cash flow, the first thing you want to do is what I did and what I recommend anyone to do. So beginners, honestly, beginners, intermediate, advanced, I don't care where you're at. The majority of people have not done this. They don't understand how you actually become financially free through real estate. Like specifically, they cannot develop a very good and specific plan. I'm giving you all the education tools and resources to do that within minutes. So the first thing I would do is pull out my budget and financial freedom tracker, and I'm going to give you that for free so you can calculate how much do you spend every single month. So then therefore, how much income do you need to replace that spending? And then doing some simple, like looking at some simple assumptions, we're going to figure out exactly how much you're going to need in total cash flow, right? And so that's going to lead to how many properties you need to be financially free, how much money you need to buy that portfolio, and roughly what's your time frame for getting there. Cool. All right, let's do that together. But by the end of it, you'll have a very specific roadmap. If you're spending $5,000 a month and every single property is netting you $500 a month of cash flow, you'll need 10 of those properties to be financially free. 10 properties times $500 is 5,000 income, 5,000 in expenses. You are financially free. Very simple, predictable, and achievable. And I want to show you how you can do that and how you can find all those resources. So first thing we're going to do is you're going to go to my Instagram at MichaelMNAT. From there, we're going to click this link that's going to take you here. This is all a bunch of cool tools and resources, calculators, YouTube, everything under the sun. But you want to go to my free Wealth Through Real Estate school community. So for you, actually, it's going to look something like this. If you're not in it, you just join. Over 1,700, almost 1,800 awesome other investors in here. You can go to the classroom where I provide tons of free trainings, tools, and resources for you. But you're going to go to the Financial Freedom Blueprint, skip past some of these financial freedom trainings, which go super in depth, which you're more than welcome to take advantage of. And then you're going to click the Budget and Financial Freedom Tracker to grab a free copy of the exact spreadsheet that I use. It's going to look just like this. You're going to make a copy, and here you go. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put in your income. You're going to put in your expenses. Okay. That is foundational. Most people don't even know how much they're making monthly. That one's a little bit easier, but really how much they're spending monthly. I put the projected versus actual. You only really need the actual, but it's a really good exercise for you to estimate how much do you think you're spending on some of these categories? And then what is the actual cost when you go back and actually look at this? Common one is insurance. Like people think they're spending $100 a month. They're spending $200. Or groceries, or they're eating out, like whatever it is, they always typically under project what they're actually spending. And then you just designate what of these are needs, what do you actually need in your life from here versus what are wants? What are the things that you can live without? Perfect example, right? Your housing, that's a need. But cable, if you were to get cable, you don't need cable. You can do what I do and just stream a bunch of stuff. That's a want, right? And you just go and break that stuff down. Then what that does is put it into this beautiful little budget summary for you, all automated, telling you income, deductions, expenses, savings. What does that look like? More importantly, breaks it down by category and then tells you how much are you saving each month. The most important reason for this is you want this financial freedom progress tab right here. It'll tell you to be financially free to cover all of your needs every single month, you'll need $4,960. It's just summarizing this information that you put in there. Based on your needs, what you have said are your needs, how much would you need to come in every single month to make you financially free? Well, that's $4,960. The real threshold for financial freedom, in my opinion, is when your needs and wants are covered. I did not want to be financially free and live the bare minimum existence, just my needs. I wanted my wants covered too. I wanted money for vacations and travel and all that other stuff. And you just want to see what that looks like on your path to financial freedom. So in this instance, it'd be $5,830. Great. You need that much money coming in to truly be financially free to cover all of your needs and wants through real estate. Another target, right? Have 4 levels of financial freedom. Your needs and wants, then 2 times your needs and wants. So if you're going to inflate your lifestyle and live twice as much as you're spending now, this is the monthly goal. And then a lot of people bring me their generational wealth legacy goals. I want $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month coming in every month. Great. You want $1.2 million a year of tax-free wealth building, awesome cash flow from your real estate portfolio. Great. I want that for you. That's your legacy goal. More importantly, you're going to take this number. So I have automatically the needs and wants pulls right into here. Your financial freedom monthly goal should be at least your needs and wants. Let's achieve that. Well, you're going to estimate how much monthly cash flow will you get per property? How much will it cost to purchase each property, purchase, renovate, reserves, all that good stuff? And how many properties do you plan on buying a year? This is super important. You can just use whatever this number will come from your budget, but these numbers are just estimates based on how I invest, but more conservatively. This will tell you quite literally, okay, if you want $5,830 a month and you're making $500 a month cash flow per property, and it costs you $100,000 per property, and you're going to buy 2 properties a year, that's all you need to define your very clear path to financial freedom. This is foundational for wherever you're at in your investing journey. So the number of properties that you're going to need are 11.7, or we can round that up to 12, right? You're going to need 12 properties to cover this. The number of years it'll take you to buy 12 properties, buying 2 a year, is 6 years. If you get more cash flow per property, you need less properties, right? This is why I do co-living. This is why I do advanced strategies to achieve my goals, to get way more return per deal so I can get them faster with less investments. The next thing is, if you're buying more properties more quickly, right, they generate better returns. Are you buying, let's say, instead of 1 every 6 months or 2 a year, let's say you're buying 1 every 3 months. You can get to this goal of almost $6,000 a month of cash flow and all the wealth building in 1.5 years buying 6 properties. Okay. So now you know how many properties to achieve this cash flow, how long it'll take you, and then how much money you need to actually do all of this stuff. So very simply, you now have a financial freedom goal. Most people don't have it this defined, at least to some extent. I'll tell you, when I started 5 years ago, my goal was I will have $6,000 a month of cash flow in the next 5 years by buying 5 small multifamily properties. And that's where I'm going to get into when it comes to the beginner training, because that's where I would start day one if I had to restart today. But you need to understand your path to real estate. What is your actual path to financial freedom through real estate? So I will achieve financial freedom by generating $5,830 a month income in 1.5 years. This is me as a capital raiser through raising $583,000. You can use your own $583,000. Most people don't have that. So that'll be part of my advanced education for you guys on learning how to raise capital. But really, I will need $583,000 to buy 6 properties in 1.5 years to be financially free. All right. You have a path. You have a roadmap. The goal is that you have a roadmap and you freaking crush that, right? And that was my goal. 5 properties, 5 years, $6,000. 5 years, I bought over close to 100 properties, generate $20,000+ a month. And I just destroyed all my goals. I was financially free in less than 3 years with way more properties and way more cash flow than I could have ever imagined. I want that for you. But you need to start somewhere. That's what this is. All right. So we talked about financial freedom. You defined your path. That's literally 0. Step 0 for everyone. Before you even start, define your financial freedom path, and that's going to come from your actual expenses. You give yourself a roadmap. Is it going to be perfect? No. Who cares? You need an actual roadmap to follow so that you are tracking your progress and you have a rough idea. Humans have a very hard time of achieving results when their goal is very abstract. It's one thing to say, I'll be financially free from real estate. It's another to say, I'll be financially free through real estate by buying 6 properties that each cash flow me $1,000 a month. So that's going to total $6,000 a month cash flow in 1.5 years by buying 4 properties a year. And it'll cost me $600,000 to achieve that portfolio, right? That's more definitive. That's more straightforward. At least it gives you something to actually work with rather than a vague goal. So the first thing for everyone, have a clear real estate investing goal. Now, if you're in the beginner phase, right, I'm going to break this down into the beginner, intermediate, and advanced phases. And these are a lot of what I did personally. I've basically done this exact journey that I'm sharing. This is even more condensed because you have the luxury of me already doing it and sharing it with you. But I'm going to be breaking it down, what I did do and what I recommend that you do regardless of where you're at, beginner, intermediate, or advanced. You can skip to any of these based on your experience level. So for the beginner phase, your first 90 days, this one is extremely vital. Your job right now is to learn the game and then start investing smartly, right? Learn the game and then start investing by making good, smart decisions. So if I was restarting as an absolute beginner, the first thing I would do is I would understand the basics of real estate. I showed you the very basics of real estate, which was, it's actually really simple. I'll just explain it again. You buy property that makes you more money than it costs you to own. If it costs you $1,000 in expenses, you need a rental income of over $1,000 before the property makes sense. That is the most simplest way to define your cash flow. Your cash flow, your monthly profit, is your income minus your expenses. That is this. Your cash flow is your income minus your expenses minus your reserves. Don't even worry about this right now. Your goal when you're starting out is to understand your goal is to buy properties that generate you more income than your expenses on that property. Whatever is left over is your cash flow, your profit that will make you financially free. That is already hard enough for most people to understand because they're buying terrible properties over and over again. Next, you just take that cash flow and multiply it by 12 to say, what is your annual cash flow? If you're making $500 a month times 12, that is $6,000 of annual cash flow a year. You take that annual cash flow and you divide it by the amount of money it took you to buy, renovate, and operate your property. That then is your cash on cash return, right? That is telling you how hard is your money working for you. You want to make sure that your properties are cash flow positive. You're making money every single month. Your income exceeds your expenses. And then your cash on cash return tells you, was this a really great investment or not? Is the amount of cash flow that you're generating, is that worth the amount of money you had to put into the investment itself? That is the very basics of real estate investing. And that is where I would start with if I was an absolute beginner, is understanding that core concept. So understand cash flow, understand your cash on cash return, understand the basics of deal analysis, understand the basics of real estate investing. Those formulas alone will literally change your life and already put you ahead of the majority of people that say, oh yeah, I want to do real estate investing. Now you have a clear path and you understand the most important calculations to actually achieve your goals. So you're already ahead of the majority that say they want to do it, but don't even know where to start. Well, the next step is you got to actually learn the strategies. It's good enough to say, okay, I have a path. I understand the basics of deal analysis. Well, you got to learn the strategies. So for example, take a week to learn the main real estate strategies. Primarily, they fall into long-term rentals, people renting out your property long-term, so the family moves in and they rent it out. Mid-term rentals, typically it's a furnished rental that someone is renting out for 3, 6+ months. Short-term rentals or vacation rentals, think of Airbnbs, average stay of less than 7 days, vacation style. Or my favorite strategy, the co-living or rent by the room strategy, right? So you get a house, you furnish it, and then you rent out each individual room, which is different than a midterm, right? The midterm, they're renting out the whole house furnished. Co-living, you're renting out each furnished room individually to different people. My opinion, don't try to master all this. Just learn how each of them works and then pick one. If you want exactly what I would do, it's co-living all day, every day. It's the best strategy, head and shoulders, and I'll explain why coming up. Next is to choose your market. You have your path. You understand the basics of deal analysis. You have the strategy you're going to implement. Well, you got to choose a market. Where are you going to invest? You have to figure out where you're going to invest so that you can actually take some real action. You can start connecting with other local investors and you can start learning what do the actual returns look like in this market and building those relationships that you need to actually achieve the results that you want with your strategy. So some people like to choose where they live, right? That's up to you. Some people think that's an advantage. I think it's better to choose markets that make the most sense for the investment strategy that you're doing, as opposed to just choosing what is close to me. For me, as a co-living investor, choosing a market is made fairly easily because I use data from the PadSplit platform, the #1 rent by the room platform for co-living data. And basically they tell me where is co-living like working really well. If you don't know how to do all that, that's fine. I got plenty of YouTube videos and it's in the free Wealth to Real Estate School community of mine that you can then look at that. All right. Chose your strategy. You chose your market. Your goal now is to analyze 100 deals. I don't actually even expect you to buy a single property of those 100 that you analyze. You might, and that'd be a phenomenal cherry on top. What you need to do is have a very clear buy box. I'm buying these types of properties in this market. And then you're getting very good at analyzing those deals, because every single deal that you analyze builds your muscle. It builds your skill set of clearly understanding your income, your expenses, understanding what renovation costs would be, taking a look at 100+ properties in your market is going to make you really much more skilled and much more confident with your investment strategy. More importantly, you're also going to build the right network of relationships that you need. For example, you can talk to agents, you can talk to other investors, you're going to talk to contractors, you're going to talk to cleaners, you're going to talk to utility companies, insurance providers. All of that is being done while you're analyzing your deals because you have a chosen market and a strategy. You can build that Rolodex of great resources that you need. So if I was to take my first action in real estate investing, now it's actually buying the deal. The first deal, your first real deal, buying it. What I would do is exactly what I did to start out. I did not go and buy a rent by the room property out of state for my first real estate investment deal. If that's how I was supposed to start off, it would have been very tough for me. And honestly, I didn't have the finances to be able to do so, or really the experience or confidence to do that myself. So the easiest path for beginners is exactly what I did. House hack a property. What that means is one of two options. You buy a really big house, you live in one room, and you rent out the other rooms. I've never done that. That's not something I want to do. Instead, what you can do is you can buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit property, live in one unit, and rent out the other ones. So for example, I've done that with a 2 unit, a 3 unit, and a 4 unit property. I've always lived in one unit. My wife and I did this. We understood the sacrifice that we were making for our long-term financial freedom and wealth building, and it was worth it for us. The cool part is when you're owner occupying a property like this, when you are house hacking a property like this, there's a lot of advantages. As at the time when I bought my first property, I was in the Army. I was an officer, so I made more than enlisted, but I made around $45,000 a year of income. Was that like $22 an hour? I had a little bit of extra money that came in for housing and for like food allowance, but like in total, maybe at the highest, $60,000 during the year as income. So around $30 an hour. That is better than most, right? I'm not going to act like it's not. That's better than a lot of people, but it's also below the median income. So this is what I did. I had to do a strategy which didn't require a lot of money from me and that I could actually finance. So what I did was I used a low down payment loan option. I was in the military, so I had a VA loan. I could put 0% down payment and buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit property, just like I could do with a single family home. But instead, I was able to buy a rental property that I lived in one side, rented out the rest, and my tenants covered all of my mortgage. And I even made money, extra money each month. On top of that, when I moved out, now it made a lot of money because the whole property was rented out. If you're not a service member or veteran, great, that's fine. There's a 3.5% down payment FHA loan you can use. Same for a 2, 3, or 4 unit property. There's a 5% conventional loan that you can use. So for every $100,000 property value, that's $5,000 conventional loan. So if you're trying to buy a $400,000 4 unit property, it's going to cost you $20,000 to get into that property. So yeah, you need some money to start real estate investing, but you don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're going the house hacking route. So if you're an absolute beginner, I just gave you the exact roadmap. You have your game plan. You know what you're going to want to accomplish. You understand your budget and you mapped out your real estate path to financial freedom. Then you learn the basics of real estate investing. If you want the basics of real estate investing, I already give the basics and then some away for absolutely for free in the Wealth of Real Estate School community. If you don't know where to find that, I'm going to just show you real fast. We were here before, so we're going to go to Classroom. You can learn the basics of real estate investing right here. These are pretty in-depth videos. There's a lot here. And then if you want to learn the basics of creative financing, that's all here as well. If you want to watch one video, come to this one, Real Estate Investing Analysis Masterclass. This is the A to Z. You'll know everything that you need to through this one video alone. Less than 2 hours. It's all for free for you. Take advantage of it. Then you get the free real estate investing calculator so you can actually analyze these deals. If you want to learn some basic co-living stuff, great. That's in here as well. Bunch of stuff on co-living. All right, understand the basics, and you don't have to learn it from the simple thing I just shared. You could do it from the free tools and resources I provide you in much more detail, and it's step-by-step and all the tools and resources. Then you're going to learn the variety of strategies, which I also include in those trainings. You're going to choose your market. You're going to analyze a bunch of deals, not just to actually buy a deal, right? That's the end goal. That's the ideal case scenario. But when you're doing that analysis, you're building your skill sets, you're building your relationships, you're building your network. So then when it comes time to buy that very first deal, you will have so much confidence you already understand everything that you need to as best as you possibly can to then make a great, informed, smart investment decision, which is where people go wrong. They get antsy and then just buy something. They are not cash flowing. It wasn't the best cash on cash return. It was a bad use of their funds. Like, don't do that. Do the analysis up front, develop that skill set. I analyzed like over 500 properties before I made my first investment. Mine was excessive. I did way too much analysis before I made my first investment, and that is known as paralysis by analysis. You don't want to get stuck in that, but that's where I was at, right? I had to connect with other real estate investors before then I had the confidence to actually buy my first investment property. That's why analyzing a bunch of deals, but also building your relationships, especially with other investors in your market, doing your strategy, is a cheat code. And then if you're an absolute beginner, the best way to start real estate investing is to house hack a 2, 3, or 4 unit property using a low down payment option so that you own a rental property now. You have gone through the process. It's less risk because it's closer to you. There's multiple units, which means that the income is spread out between the multiple units. You're going to live rent free. And once you move out, you're going to make a bunch of cash flow. And you can use the projected income on those rental units to allow you to buy a bigger property than what your income is. Like if you've got $40,000, $50,000 of annual income, this is the route for you to do. Once again, live rent-free and own an appreciating asset. So if I was brand new today, this is exactly how I'd start, because that one deal will change your confidence and your cash flow forever. It's exactly what it did for me.